Hey mamas, when was the last time you had a type of sleep where you woke up actually feeling rested? If your nights feel like endless cycles of waking up and feeding and light sleep and baby noises and your mind racing at 2 a.m. Googling things, just know you are so not alone. Tonight, we are going to talk about how to get better quality of sleep. Not necessarily more quantity, but the kind that you can heal your body and mind with. So I'm going to be sharing some simple and realistic tips that fit into your mom life. So nothing fancy, no fancy routines and no guilt, just calm, doable changes that really work. So I'm going to share 3 ones that I use all the time, and you're going to want to stick around for the third one because it's my favorite. So if you're like me, then you have children who are not the best sleepers. So I am Devin, and in case you didn't know who I am a yoga teacher. I created this group, Mommy Yoga, and I have been teaching for 15 years. I'm a wife, and I have 2 little ones, a 4-year-old and a 15-month-old. So my 4-year-old sleeps really well now, but she was a real puzzle when she was younger. So like 0 to, well, even before 0, let's say from the moment she was in my belly to around when Felix was born, she was not a good sleeper. So I say that because my pregnancy with her, I had pregnancy insomnia for the entire pregnancy. And that was like my number one clue that I was pregnant before I took a test, because I don't have insomnia typically. And I literally probably had less than 20 full night sleeps from my entire pregnancy. Like every single day around like 2 or 3 a.m. my eyes would pop open and I could not fall back asleep for at least an hour. So that was really tough. And then of course when she was born, that stopped immediately. My husband did what he could to let me get as much sleep as I could to heal. So like the first sleep I had when we were home, it was like so deep, and like I did not wake up until like the morning at some point, like no middle of the night waking up. So it was very restful, but that was of course short-lived because of feedings. Like my husband did what he could for feedings, but a lot of babies just really want their mom at first because that's all they know. And even though the dad really loves them and wants to build that bond, sometimes it takes a little while. So it was interesting figuring out the feedings, and she very much, we always say she was a FOMO baby because she never wanted to sleep. She always seemed like she didn't want to miss out. And I had to baby wear her and bounce on the ball like constantly. And when that was done, she wasn't the type of baby who wanted to eat like all night long. So at least that, but she would wake up because she wanted to know what was going on, or she just would not go to sleep. And luckily when we finally got her down, she would stay asleep for like a few hours. And then when she got like around the same age as Felix is now, when she'd wake up in the morning, we'd leave like a board book or whatever within her reach, like either just at the edge of her crib or something like that. And she would like look at the book and entertain herself until we could get to her. So that was great. But then she started climbing out of the crib and we had to change her over to a bed because we didn't want her to fall and hurt herself. So then there was like that whole transition of being in like a bed, and then she just would want us to be in the bed with her and cuddle, and if we weren't, she'd wake up crying. And that lasted like seriously until my son was born. And then something like switched in her mind. Like, I don't know if she was like, oh, okay, like he needs the attention now, or if she had just like matured like just that much that she needed to, or she was just like, okay, like I'm gonna go to sleep now, good night, bye. Or if it was the fact that like the routine changed because I was always the one putting her to bed, but then I had to deal with Felix, so then my husband was putting her to bed, so maybe he had some kind of magic that turned her into a good sleeper. That's what I always say. And he's like, but I don't know what I did. So now she's a great sleeper, but now we're going through it with Felix. So I did not have pregnancy insomnia with him. So I was like, oh, wouldn't it be awesome if he was a good sleeper? And he is. However, he's a hungry boy. He's 15 months and he still wants, he wakes up for milk like every 3 hours. So all of that to say, I don't get a good quantity of sleep, even though he's a good sleeper. So I need to have really good quality of sleep to be able to get everything done and looked after that I need to every day. So yeah, my typical night is he goes to sleep in the 7 o'clock hour, like usually around like 7:30, and I get him in the crib around 8ish, because he wants to snuggle and finish his milk and whatever. And then he usually will either cry for cuddles around like 9:30, and my husband will give him the cuddles, and then I do what I need to do, and then I give him another feeding at 10, and then he goes in the crib, and then the next time he fusses is usually around midnight. And lately I feed him again, I get him in the crib, and then he's fussing again around 1. So then I feed him again, get him back in the crib, and then he's usually good until like 3 or 4. And then at that point, I'm so like tired because I actually went to bed around like after that 1 a.m. feeding. And so then I just like bring him into our bed, and then he's just, I don't even know like how much he's feeding when he's in the bed with us. And then we wake up around 7:30 to get my daughter ready for school. So it's a lot, and it's a lot of feeding for me, but that's where we're at right now, and trying to let him lead the way in weaning, and don't know how that's gonna go. So anyways, yeah, he sleeps better, but all the feeding makes me not have a lot of quantity of sleep. So let's get into how I get a good quality of sleep so I'm able to function, because that's a lot. I don't know if you feel like it's a lot, but for me it's a lot. And for you, like, it might be a different issue. Maybe you have a FOMO baby like my daughter was, or maybe you have anxiety and you're Googling stuff and things are running through your head all day long, or stress about your work, or any other situations that might be going on in your life, and that can just like run through your mind. And when your mind's like working and processing and doing all sorts of stuff, it's not sleeping. So that's tough for you when you, especially when you're just like at the base level, you are a mom, and that's affecting your sleep. So all this other stuff is making it worse. So my number one tip is to try to get some movement in. And I know you're probably like, okay, yeah, whatever, you're a yoga teacher, of course you would say that. But it's true, because oftentimes we are so busy, we put that movement as like, you know, a last priority. But if you can get that movement in, like doing yoga or going for a walk or doing whatever other types of movement you like to do, then that can release hormones that are helpful in balancing yourself and getting some of those thoughts and stuff to clear out of your head, because you're thinking of the exercise you're doing instead of all the other stuff that's going on in your life. And like it helps with endorphins and stuff, and then, you know, it maybe makes your muscles tired, and that also helps you to fall asleep a bit better. So movement, even though we're often like, yeah, I don't have time for that, even if we could find like 10 minutes a day, that can be like so helpful to getting better quality of sleep. Then my second tip is to find a breathing exercise. And once again, you might be watching this and being like, okay, you're a yoga teacher, of course you're going to say that. But I use that and I use it because I am a yoga teacher and I've been taught these practices. But my kids can sometimes drive me up the wall. I'll be like, today I was hanging with my kids and Felix is going through a phase where all he wants to do is grab a pillow and a blanket and sit on my lap and want milk. And I'm like, boy, I'm not a milk dispenser. And then, so I'm trying to like distract him so that he doesn't want to just do that. And then my daughter's like, mom, 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 mommy, mom, mom. And I'm like, yes, 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 yes. And then eventually, after like hours of this, and then Felix starts crying because I'm not letting him just use me as a milk dispenser, my eye starts twitching because I get so like, oh my God, are you serious? So when the eye starts twitching, I know I need the breathing exercises. So what I do is I do a counted breath, and I've been even I put this off sometimes. I'm like, oh, whatever, like I'm too busy for that, which is so silly because when I do it is right before I go to sleep. So that would be when I would highly recommend it if you have the mindset of whatever, like I don't have time to just sit and breathe. So if you do it right before you fall asleep, you're like your own captive audience. So there's two different techniques I really, really like, and they're really good for beginners, and I would highly recommend. So the first one is that I use when my eye is twitching like crazy is a counted breath, where you count the inhales, then you count a retention of the breath, and then you count the exhales. So my favorite form of doing that is inhaling for a count of 4, retaining the breath for a count of 4, and then exhaling for a count of 7. And that can be a little bit panicky at first, because if we're really stressed out or anxious or going through it, our breath tends to be more shallow. So then when you introduce this breath, it can feel like a lot. So it can make you feel a little bit panicky at first, but I promise if you stick with it, it can really calm your nervous system. And how I like to do it is I do that breath with my eyes closed while I'm lying on my pillow. And then eventually you notice that the panicky feeling goes away because your breath starts to get deeper. And then when that happens, I'm also trying to know what's going on in my head. So some days there's way more things flowing through my head than other days. But as I'm counting the breath, I'm also noticing if those things that are going through my mind are starting to slow down, or if I'm starting to just like focus more on the count that I'm doing instead of the things that are running through my head. Then when I notice that is happening, I switch to just inhales and exhales. And I'm noticing that those inhales and exhales are now deeper than when I started the counted 4-4-7 breath. And then when that happens, I start to just count the breath. So like inhale, exhale is 1. Inhale, exhale is 2. So that sort of thing. And the reason I do that is because I'm continuing to focus on the number rather than things that are going through my mind. So that is really helpful. I find that when I do that, the eye twitching stops and I fall asleep like pretty quickly. So that is definitely something I would highly recommend, especially if you're in a stressful situation or if you have anxiety. This is something that helps to ground you and reset you a little bit. Then the third tip is meditation. So again, you might be thinking, oh, Devin, you are a yoga teacher. Of course you're going to say that. But it's true, and it can really help in so many situations. And the thing with meditation is that people who don't do it often feel like it's like this thing where you have to be in this perfectly Zen room with like mood lighting and like gongs and like incense, and you have to just sit there and think of nothing. And that's not realistic, and that's not how you have to practice. So first of all, with meditation, if someone tells you how you're supposed to practice or telling you that you're doing something wrong or that's not meditation, then that's their own problem. It's not your problem, and you just have to approach it the way that is easily accessible for you. So that whole just sitting and thinking of nothing was not approachable or accessible for me. That was not going to happen. Even when I first started yoga, doing shavasana, like lying down at the end of the practice, I was like, oh my God, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. I have so many other things I could be doing. And that's how a lot of people feel about meditation. So I would also recommend doing this before you go to sleep if you are that type of person. So you are your own captive audience if you do it that way. That's how I think of it, because if you're lying there in bed and a million things are running through your head and you're just not falling asleep and it's getting frustrating, it's making your eye twitch, and then, you know, your cortisol levels are spiking, which doesn't help you to sleep, certainly doesn't help you to have a good quality of sleep, then you have to say to yourself, do I enjoy this? And the answer is definitely no. So you want to try to do the meditation, you know, work on the breathing practice I had mentioned before, and maybe throw in a little bit of meditation. And what that could look like in this scenario is focusing on the breathing. So you could combine the two. So when you're counting, you are noticing the thoughts flying through your mind, and then you're trying to put more and more focus on the count that you're doing, so that the things flying through your mind become more and more like you're ignoring them more and more, or they're like, if you're more of a visual person, like the image of those things are starting to dull, or it's starting to slow down, and then your focus is, the percentage is going more and more up towards the number you're counting instead of all the thoughts that are running through your mind. And for me, what that looks like is when I'm doing my 4-4-7 breath, I'm focusing on the number that I'm counting and the breath that I'm doing. And I'm also just noticing, I'm not focusing, but I'm noticing if those thoughts are, like I said, getting more dull or slowing down or fading away. And once I have noticed that I'm not paying attention to the thoughts at all, and my focus is 100% on the number I'm counting, that's when I change from my 4-4-7 breath to just deep inhales and exhales, and just counting inhale, exhale is 1, inhale, exhale is 2. And I just literally do that until I fall asleep. Some other ways that I have meditated before bed that have been super helpful for sleep are repeating a sentence to yourself. So when I was pregnant with my daughter, I had a lot of anxiety because of my first pregnancy not going well. So I would say something like, I'm safe. My body can do this, something like that. And each inhale, I would say I'm safe, and each exhale is my body can do this, or something like that. And I was focusing on those sentences almost like a mantra instead of focusing on things that were flying through my head. And once again, like just focusing on the sentences I was saying, I would focus more and more on that and less on the things floating through my head until my focus was 100% on the phrase I was saying. So I really like doing that practice as well. But currently my favorite practice is doing the breathing and counting the breath. But, I don't have a whole lot of stress or anxiety right now other than just general motherhood stuff. So for me, I find when I have more stressful or anxious chapters in my life, the mantra type meditation works better for me. And when I have more peaceful chapters of my life, like currently, that the counted breath variation works best for me, and it really helps with my eye twitch. So if you are experiencing something like that, I would highly recommend it because it seriously has healed my eye twitch. So let's review all that, since that was a lot. We are trying to work on quality of sleep because we're moms and we're not realistically going to be able to find more quantity of sleep. So my tips are more movement, better breathing exercises, and meditation. And to just go into that quickly, but a little bit more in case you don't remember. Movement helps with your hormones and helps endorphins, and can make your muscles tired, which helps you be a little bit more sleepy. So that can help right there. Breathing, because it can help with all the things floating through your mind, and it can help ground you and ease like anxiety or stress. But even just finding a deeper breath, because if you're going to sleep with a shallow breath, that affects your quality of breath of sleep, and a better breath can improve the quality of sleep. And then meditation. And then I just want to throw in a bonus little tip too. If you notice if you sleep with your mouth clenched, or you grind your teeth, that can affect your quality of sleep. So believe it or not, there's mouth posture. And if you can try to have your mouth closed while you sleep, but keep your tongue, like the tip of your tongue, resting right behind these two teeth. So your tongue's not pressing against the roof of your mouth, and you're not like trying to press your tongue towards the bottom of your mouth, but that the tip of your tongue is just resting right behind these two teeth. That is optimal mouth alignment, and that can help reduce clenching and grinding, and can help with better quality of sleep. You might have seen some people get like mouth tape so that they're not sleeping with their mouth open, creating mouth dryness and stuff like that. I haven't tried taping my mouth, but I do try to sleep with good mouth posture, and when I'm able to maintain that, I definitely notice that my jaw is like more at ease, my neck's more at ease, my head, and that definitely helps with quality of sleep as well. So if you have any questions about anything I had mentioned, please feel free to comment. If you don't feel comfortable commenting, feel free to DM me. I'd love to help you in any way that I can. And if anything resonated, let me know. Look out for my polls that I post. Mondays, I post a poll so you can pick what we are talking about on Wednesdays during this live. Thursdays, I will be getting back to my polls next week. This week, there's not going to be a poll because I'm doing the final week of my hip pain relief series. So if you want the link to any of those videos or the playlist, let me know and I'll send it your way. Hips are a big thing that bother mothers, either pregnant or postpartum and beyond. But typically I will also be posting a poll on Thursdays so that you can pick what you want me to film a tutorial on. And I'll just be posting some fun little questions here and there so that we can get to know each other all better, and you can have a little conversation if you like. All right, so I hope that was helpful. I hope you have a great sleep, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye for now.